I'm Wendell from Wendell Woodworks, and a friend of mine just asked me if I would create this tray. They found it buried on my Instagram because it's something that I used to make 5 years ago. I enthusiastically said, yes, I'd love to make you one because it's been a while, and this was one of my very first woodworking projects. So if you are brand new to messing around with wood and power tools, this is a great project for you. The necessary tools that you'll need to make it are a miter saw and a drill. Nifty tools to have, but optional tools here are a nail gun, an orbital sander, and an inkjet printer. And I'll be using a 12-inch pine board for the base of this tray and some wood lath for the framing. After purchasing a 12-inch pine board from the local hardware store, I marked a length of 16 inches and cut it on my miter saw. Next, I cut the frame pieces with the wood lath. 2 pieces cut at 16 inches for the length, and 2 more pieces cut at the length of the sides plus the additional width of the lath. After your shorter edge pieces are cut, you'll want to mark the spots for the drawer handles in the center and drill the holes for screws with the appropriate bit size. I then used 250 grit on my orbital sander to make sure both the board and the frame pieces were smooth. And now it's time for the ink transfer. Now that I own a Cricut, I'll often use it to make stencils, but ink transfer is another great way that you can do this with only an inkjet printer. And since I love showing people how they can be resourceful and do things without expensive tools, that's what we're going to do today. To do this, you simply print your design on a glossy wax type of paper. I always use label sheets. You just remove the labels and print on the glossy front found underneath them. You also need to make sure that you mirror your design before printing. If you want to use my design, you can find it already mirrored and ready for you in the video description below. You'll also want to check your printer settings to make sure that it's printing at its best quality on a glossy paper. And before printing, I mark the center of my board with Post-it notes to help me correctly center it after printing. Fresh from the printer, I carefully apply tape all around the edges without touching the ink, and carefully lay it onto the wood, making sure it doesn't move to smear the ink once it's down. After a few good rubs to make sure it all soaks in, I remove the label sheet to reveal the words. Now it's time to stain the tray in your desired colors. I stained the base of mine with classic gray stain from Minwax and the frame with early Americana. Now it's time to assemble. Starting with the 2 long sides, apply a thin layer of wood glue and nail on your lath pieces, making sure the edges are completely flush. If you need to, take the piece back to the miter saw to make sure they are perfectly matched in size. Then attach your sides in the same way. Once the stain is dry, it's time for finish. Any kind of polyurethane is a good option for these. Here I'm using a spray polyurethane. It dries quickly, but will need several coats following the directions on the can. You also want to make sure you get the bottom. Once the finish is dry, the drawer handles go on and you have a finished wood tray. And there you have it. Thanks for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed that, and you can find some more beginner woodworking tutorials right here on my page. Happy creating!